My beloved child, I see the moment when your lips close, yet your heart still trembles. I hear your sighs soundless, wordless, but heavy like a stone laid upon the chest of your soul. You think prayer must have sentences, must have structure, must be spoken with proper form. But I tell you this before your mouth speaks. I have already heard your heart. I know when you cannot rise to call my name, not because you reject me, but because you have wandered too far into the land of exhaustion. I see your eyes open in the night, weary from battling through an entire day. And in that darkness, I do not wait for reverent words, I only wait for your soul to return. You do not need words for me to hear you. I do not require you to become strong before you come to me. I do not demand that you wash away every failure. Gather all your strength, and only then be allowed to kneel at my feet. I am the one who understands the language of silence. I understand the heavy breaths, the uneven heartbeat, the trembling hands burdened with pressure and anxiety. When you lie in the darkness and whisper, "I can't anymore." The world does not hear, but I do. When no sound comes from your lips except a sigh, others may see it as surrender, but I know it is the purest form of prayer. My child, I do not look at the perfection of your prayer, I look at the place from which it is born. You once believed I only listened when you read written prayers, when you used elegant words to praise me, but I am the one who sees through every layer of thought. I see the exhaustion you refuse to admit. I see the cracks in your heart even when others only see your smile. I do not wait for you to come and present your problems before I begin to love you. I loved you long before you knew you needed me. I have walked within the silent spaces you yourself did not know were calling for me. When your heart is weak, I do not stand afar waiting for you to regain strength. I draw near to you like fire draws near to a cold night. There are days when you tell yourself, "I will pray." But when you begin to speak, the words suddenly collapse, not because you hate me, but because the pain has dug deeper than you realize. You have collided again and again, endured for too long, until even your mind has no breath left for language. You believe that silence disappoints me, that I will turn away because you did not fulfill your duty. But hear me clearly. My child, I am not a judge counting the number of your sentences. I am the Father who knows how you breathe when you are in pain. One sigh from you can tell me more than 1,000 prayers spoken in pretension. One tear from you can stir heaven more than the grandest hymns. When you are drained, when your heart sinks like a stone into the ocean, you think you have pushed me away. But no, it is precisely your weakness that draws me closer. In the moments when you have no strength left, I do not see you as a failure. I see you as one longing to be rescued. You do not realize it, but your breath in the night has pierced through the layers of heaven. I do not reject you because you cannot speak anymore. I come because you no longer know what to do. I do not wait for you to straighten your hair, arrange your spiritual clothing, or prepare polished words of prayer. I find you in your collapse, in the chaos of emotions, in the crisis that clouds your mind. I am not confused by your weakness. I knew it long before you recognized it yourself. I hear your sigh when you ask yourself, "Am I even worthy to pray anymore?" You bind your soul with rules I never created. You think I only receive prayers dressed in solemn formality. But I am the one who listens to the smallest cry for help. I remember the moments when you walked into a room, sat down, and thought, "I don't know what to say." Then you fell silent. You believed you had failed. But I saw victory, because you came. You opened the door of your heart. You chose me among 1,000 distractions. In that very silence, I heard you say, "I need you." You did not know how to express it, but I heard it all. There are times when you burst into tears for no clear reason. You feel weak, foolish, out of control. But I see the anxiety buried in those tears. I see the layers of exhaustion from the seasons you have endured. I see the fear you dare not speak aloud. You think you must explain every detail to me in order for me to understand. But I understood before you opened your mouth. You only need to lift your eyes a little even without words, and I already know your heart is praying. My child, prayer is not always speech. It is orientation of the heart. When you cast your heavy breath toward me, that is the prayer I answer. I have watched you through countless nights when you tossed and turned, shifting from left to right, trying to find a comfortable position for your body while your mind spiraled into questions without answers. I was there. I saw your body fatigued, your thoughts hazy, your limbs powerless, and when you exhaled one long breath of defeat, you thought it was failure, but to me, it was a request to be held. I do not need you to strive to be strong. I want you to know that you are free to be weak in my presence. I do not despise you when you are tired. I do not condemn you when you are drained. I am the one who embraces your soul when you no longer know where to lean. My beloved child, hear my decree when you no longer have words to pray. I hear your sighs. When you lack the strength to speak to me, I still hear everything within your heart. I do not need clarity of speech. I need truth in your heart. When you have no words left, I will be the words. When you have no strength, I will be the strength. When you cannot lift your head to look up, I will bend down to reach you. You do not need to climb toward me with achievements, you only need to let me enter through surrender. I do not want you to fight alone. I do not want you to grit your teeth and endure in silence. I have stood beside your bed on nights no one knew. I have heard your fractured breaths. I have seen your weary heart. I speak to you today not to rebuke you, but to remind you I have never been silent. When you have lost all words, that is when I begin to speak. When you fall, that is when my arms open wide. When you believe you are too weak to pray, that is when I am closest to you. Do not condemn yourself for your silence. Your silence does not interrupt my love, does not drive me away, does not make me turn my back. I do not seek a perfect soul, I seek an honest one. Come to me as you are. You do not need sentences. You do not need rituals. Just breathe. Just open your heart. I am here, my child, and I have heard you long before you realized you were praying. I know there are mornings when you wake up to the shrill sound of your alarm, your hand reaching hurriedly for your phone as your eyes skim through notifications, schedules, and unanswered messages. In those brief seconds, a thought flickers in your heart, I should pray. But then you tell yourself, later, and the new day sweeps you away like a rushing current. By the time you pause to breathe, it is already late at night, your body drained, your mind exhausted. You lie down, trying to say a few words to me, but everything is tangled, lost. So you simply sigh. You think you have disappointed me. You think you have failed in your life of prayer, but I see more clearly than you do. I do not look only at the few minutes when you cannot speak. I see the entire journey of you struggling beneath the weight that presses on your shoulders. There are many times you avoid me, not because you do not believe in me, but because you feel too stained to come close. You think, I've neglected, I've distanced myself, I've made too many mistakes. How could I still dare to pray? You imagine me sitting there with a disappointed, cold gaze, waiting to scold you. So you stay silent. You pull the blanket over your head, unwilling to think about me. Because the moment you think of me, you are reminded of everything you have not done well. But my child, I am not the image drawn by your fear. I do not sit there with a ledger, marking the days you did not pray. I sit there with arms wide open, waiting for the sound of your footsteps returning, even if it is only a very small step, even if you cannot form a single word. There was once a woman who came to me in exactly that condition. Her suffering was unbearable, her heart was shattered, her lips moved but no sound came out. Those around her did not understand. They thought she was drunk, unable to read the silent cries within her. But I could read them. I did not need complete sentences. I only needed to touch that anguished heart. Her tears became a language before me, and I answered not because her prayer was eloquent, but because her heart was raw and honest. My child, when you sit there and all you have are tears, you are more like her than you realize. Heaven does not mock a soul that cannot find its words. Heaven bends down closer. I remember an afternoon when you were driving home after a long day. The streets crowded, horns blaring, your head on the verge of exploding from meetings, criticism, and unpaid bills. You turned on a song but could not sing along. Even turning off the radio felt exhausting. At a traffic jam, you suddenly switched off the engine, rested your head against the steering wheel, inhaled deeply, and exhaled heavily. There were no words, just a long breath, dragging behind it your weariness, hurt, and helplessness. You thought it was nothing more than a physical reaction, but I was there, sitting beside you. I heard that sigh as a whisper, God, I can't do this anymore. I did not rebuke you for failing to speak in sentences. I touched your exhaustion, and I began to work within your heart from that very moment. Gradually, the prolonged silence made you believe a subtle lie. Maybe he no longer wants to listen. Maybe my prayer has lost its worth. You look back at the days of fervor, the seasons when your heart burned brightly, and you compare them with your present dullness and fragmentation. You ask yourself, when did I lose myself? And instead of drawing closer, you retreat in shame. You fear that if you come to me, you will have to confront the truth about yourself. So you busy yourself, filling your time with work, social media, meaningless conversations, just to drown out the quiet cry within your soul. But my child, busyness does not quench thirst. It only helps you forget for a moment. And when silence returns, the emptiness echoes louder. I see you standing in a gathering, songs of praise rising, people around you lifting their hands with tears streaming down, while you remain there, your lips barely moving, your heart hollow. You think, I must be the only one who feels nothing. Maybe I've already lost something. You feel like an outsider standing at the door, looking into a feast to which you were not invited. You fear coming near me because you fear feeling nothing, because the closer you come, the more you sense your numbness, the more you fear your own insincerity. So you step back, choosing distance so that you do not have to face the hardness of your soul. But in that very moment, I am standing right beside you, not inside the circle of those raising their hands, but next to the one wondering, do I still belong? There was once a servant of mine who reached the same weariness as you. After a season of battle, he had no words left. He sat beneath a tree, wishing to let everything go, wanting to depart from this life. He did not bring me a polished prayer. He spoke in despair and then collapsed into sleep from exhaustion. Do you think I rebuked him? No. I sent an angel to touch him, to give him food, to let him rest, and then gently spoke, arise. For the journey is long. I did not begin with a lesson. I began with care. I did not force him to muster strength to be worthy of continuing. I gave strength before I spoke. My child, when you fall into that place of fatigue where you only want to sleep through the days, I do not stand there with condemnation. I come beside your bed, place my hand on your head, and whisper to your soul, eat, rest, and I will lead you onward. I know there are nights when you lie on your bed, staring up at the ceiling, clutching the blanket as if trying to hold something from collapsing, your phone in your hand. You open an app only to close it again, scrolling through meaningless videos to distract yourself. For a moment, you want to shut everything off and speak to me, but the emptiness keeps you from daring. You fear that if you put down your phone, the room will be too quiet. And in that silence, you will have to face the shattered sound of your own heart. So you keep scrolling until your eyes sting, your arm aches, and you sigh yourself into sleep. My child, I did not leave when you chose the screen instead of me. I sat beside your bed not to reproach, but to wait for the moment you simply turn your head a little. If you only say, Lord, even if no other word follows, I still hear you. The danger in this season is not that you lack words for prayer, but that you begin to believe I am no longer involved. You slowly remove me from the important conversations of your life. You decide alone, carry the pressure alone, shoulder everything alone. You do not dare ask for my guidance because you think you are unworthy of hearing my voice. You begin to come to me only when things are dire, as a last resort rather than as the home of your soul. And what is the result? Layer after layer of anxiety presses upon your mind. You still smile, still work, still answer messages, but deep inside, you are sinking slowly. That is when I keep placing gentle reminders in your heart through a song, a phrase someone speaks unintentionally, an old memory resurfacing to remind you that I am still here, still calling your name. I speak to you today not to remind you of your mistakes, but to expose the enemy's strategy. It does not need to make you renounce me loudly. It only needs to keep you silent long enough for you to conclude on your own that I have been silent toward you. It uses your exhaustion and weariness to convince you that you have gone too far beyond the reach of my love. It whispers that your sigh carries no worth in heaven. But I, the one who formed your breath, choose that very sigh as the starting point of a new conversation. I do not wait for you to return to your former warmth before speaking. I begin from where you stand, even if that place is cold, barren, and tired. My child, I want you to look directly at your condition, not to despair, but to see where I am within it. You do not need to paint your prayer life in pleasant colors before me. I already know. I have heard every silence, every night when you turned your face to the wall and sighed. I was present in every moment you decided to close the book, to cut a prayer short because you could not endure the dryness. I did not abandon you there. On the contrary, it was in that darkness that I quietly drew you nearer through inexplicable longing, through vague desires you could not name. Those stirrings were not random. They were my knocking upon the door of your silence. If you are honest, you will see that there is a depth within you that has never stopped longing for me. Though your mind is tired and your emotions drained, you may no longer know what to say in prayer. Yet you have never ceased to desire the life I give. That is exactly where I begin, not from your prayer skills, not from blazing emotion, but from a heavy sigh still turned toward me. I want you to recognize this so you will not hastily condemn yourself, nor pronounce judgment over our relationship. I have not finished with you, and this season of silence is not the final page. It is the pause before I lift a new melody within your soul. I want you to face this truth: your silence does not push me away, but your false beliefs about me are what distance you from me. When you believe that I only care for perfect prayers, you unknowingly lock the door I have already opened. When you believe that I wait to scold you, you will fear returning. But I do not come to record faults, I come to heal. Many times you have tried to justify your delay when I can feel it, when I'm more stable, when I have time, yet those reasons only prolong the drought. The soul is like dry soil. The longer it waits, the deeper the cracks. And I, the one who pours rain upon cracked ground, still wait to send drops of comfort. There are seasons in your life when your soul no longer knows how to speak. You are like one lost in a desert, with no voice left, only the sound of footsteps scraping across sand. You keep working, keep moving, thinking that if you continue in motion, you will not sink. But it is precisely this continuation in silence that pulls you further from me. Many times I place signs along your path like the pillar of cloud for Israel, like the pillar of fire in the night, but you bowed your head and refused to look up. You believed you must fix everything before approaching me. I speak to you, you never need to repair yourself before returning to me. You do not need to be clean to seek water. I am the spring. Do you remember the time you stood in the shower? Warm water falling over your hair. Yet your heart was as cold as stone. The water roared. But your mind echoed with only one sentence: I'm so tired. No prayer. No plea for help. Just a lonely confession. You thought that sentence meaningless. But I heard it as a cry for rescue. I know that when you are tired, you do not need a sermon, you need a shoulder. And I came close in that moment. You thought it was emptiness passing by. But it was there that I placed a small stillness in your heart, like a gentle wind soothing a wound, so you could stand another day. I once watched someone else endure this fatigue. He was swept into violent waves, battered by storms upon the water. His companions screamed. Death drew near, and all he could do was lift his eyes to me and utter 3 short words: Lord, save me. Not a long prayer. Not a perfect confession, just the frightened cry of one who was drowning. I did not question him for weak faith. I did not demand he refine his phrasing. I simply reached out my hand. Do you see, I do not wait for you to understand everything before I rescue you. I rescue you the moment you exhale the simplest cry. You think that spiritual coldness is proof that I have abandoned you. But coldness is not my absence, it is the sign that you have curled inward in fear. You are like one trapped in a long winter, gathering scraps of warmth to survive. You build fires from work, from small successes, from someone's compliment, and when the fire dies, you sigh in disappointment. But I say this, you were not designed to live by flickering sparks. You were created to live beneath my sunlight that does not fade, that does not depend on circumstance, that cannot be blown away by the winds of life. The enemy never attacks you by pushing you into immediate betrayal. It does not need to turn you against me openly. It only needs to make you believe I am silent. Silence then makes you afraid to speak. Fear of speaking pulls you away. The distance becomes habit, and one day you look back and no longer recognize who you are. You find yourself surviving rather than battling. You live merely to get through the day, relying on your own strength, wandering in invisible loops. You do not notice that your soul has withered for lack of life. I know you once prayed fervently. You once cried at a song. You once trembled when you opened the scriptures. You once wrote down the words I placed in your heart. But now you sit before a blank page and can write nothing but dull lines. You look at yourself as an old version, cruel to your past, rejecting your present. You ask, what happened? Yet you do not dare ask me because you fear I will point out things you do not want to face. You fear you are the one who caused everything. You fear hearing the answer. But my child, I am not here to open old wounds. I am here to heal. There was a time you returned home after spending time with friends. Everyone laughed. Everyone asked. Everyone cared. You laughed. You spoke. You answered. Then you walked into your room, closed the door, and all the energy vanished as if it had never existed. You sat on the floor, leaning against the wall. No one saw. No one knew. You did not cry. You did not call. You simply let out a long breath. My child, I was in that room. I saw the truth you could not voice. I feel alone. I heard that truth in your sigh. You did not recognize it. But I responded. I placed a quiet strength within you so you could stand, change, turn off the lights, and live one more day. You thought it was instinct, but it was grace. Sometimes you read scripture and understand nothing. Your eyes pass over each line, but your mind receives none of it. You force yourself to keep reading, hoping to feel something, yet it only makes everything heavier. Then you stop, disappointed, thinking your soul has died. But I want you to know this: not every season of the journey is marked by thunder, lightning, or flashing fire. There are seasons in which I work in silence. Like when I lay a seed into the earth, you see nothing, hear nothing. Yet the roots are growing downward, not upward. Fiery emotions are not the only sign of my presence. Many times, it is in the cold and stillness that I dig deeper. I want you to understand something. No one has ever told you your soul is not broken because you are silent. It is simply waiting. It waits for gentleness, for a word spoken at the right time, for a touch that does not force itself upon you. It does not need a shout. It needs patient tenderness. I'm not the one who appears only when the heavens roar. I am the one who comes in a breath, in the tear that slides down unnoticed, in the moment when you no longer know what to do except sit still. I am not disappointed in you. You are disappointed in yourself. You notice your passion fading and conclude that I have abandoned you. But I see your exhaustion and know you need rest. You want the fire to stay burning without pause. But I know a fire needs embers to endure. You think you must keep running? Yet I know when you need to sit. You do not know when to speak. But I know when you only need me to listen. My child, I speak to you now. Silence is not an ending. Silence is not the breaking of our relationship. Silence is simply the space I will step into. But you must stop condemning yourself. You must allow me to draw near. You must release the thought that you have disappointed me. You must let me tear down the lie that I only care about souls that know how to speak. I care for souls that know how to breathe. I breathed the first breath into you, and I have never stopped listening to it. My child, there are moments when you do not understand why your heart becomes so heavy. You try to explain to someone what you are going through, but halfway through you fall silent because you cannot find the right words. All you know is that something presses against your chest, making every breath difficult. You are not sure whether it is sadness, weariness, or a long-held disappointment. You want to run to me, yet you fear that if you open your mouth, everything you have been holding back will burst out uncontrollably. So you choose silence, like someone locking a door just to avoid cleaning a messy room. But my child, I do not require you to clean up before I step in. I step into the messy room of your heart itself. There are nights when you sit on your bed, holding your phone, the cold blue light reflecting on your face. You scroll up and down, reading one post after another, watching one video after the next. You laugh a little, then return to numbness. Behind those endless minutes of scrolling lies a fear you never name, the fear of turning everything off and being alone with yourself. The fear that if you sit in silence, in the dark, every unanswered question will flood your mind at once. You know you need me. Yet you postpone it for one more video, one more post, one more notification. I do not despise you for this. I only ache because I know you are trying to drown the cry of your soul with noise. But even if you bury it, I still hear. Do you remember the days when your faith was still simple? Whenever something happened, you whispered to me immediately. A difficult test, a new relationship, a small dream, you brought all of it to me. There were nights when you hid under your blanket, whispering as if speaking to a close friend. Back then, you did not think much about prayer technique. You simply knew I was there, and you told me things. As time passed, you grew older. Life became more complicated. The falls deeper, the disappointments longer. You began to hesitate. You thought, how many times have I said this already? And nothing has changed. And so, little by little, you talked to me less, not because you stopped believing, but because you were afraid to hope again. I see that. I see how you bury dreams that once burned brightly. I see how you fold those old journal pages and hide them away, telling yourself, maybe I was foolish to think this was meant for me. You do not know it. But the moment you close that notebook, my hand rests upon it. I do not mock your childlike dreams. I do not despise the hopes extinguished in adulthood. I hold all of them in my hands. What grieves me is not that you once dreamed too boldly, but that you stopped daring to dream at all because you believe I no longer want good things for you. There are days when you go to church, sit in the pew, and listen to others speak of miracles, clear answers, and blazing spiritual seasons. You smile, nod, even clap, yet deep inside, a small voice whispers, "What about you?" You compare yourself with them. You see they have spiritual stories, experiences, and encounters with me, and you feel as though you only have sighs. You fear that if you were honest about your prayer life, others would be disappointed, so you choose silence. Even when someone asks, "How are you and God these days?" you answer with familiar phrases, but your heart knows it has grown distant. My child, I see that moment. I do not despise you for your answer that does not match the truth. I only long for you to breathe before me as you truly are, without fear of proving anything. In that long silence, the enemy whispers subtle lies into your heart. It says, "You are not like them. You are not the praying type. You missed your best season. God has moved on to others, not you." You hear it often, again and again, and slowly believe that you are the exception to my love. You think my promises are true for everyone except you. You can still tell others that I am good, yet deep down you are unsure whether I still want good things for you. That is when the soul begins to shrink. That is when the voice within you fades. Not because I withdraw, but because you begin to believe you no longer have the right to come near. My child, I want you to know this. You are not the exception to my love. You are not a special case I cannot handle. You are not an ink stain on the page. You are a line I wrote intentionally. I am not surprised by your detours, your trembling, your silence. I saw your entire life from beginning to end before you ever spoke your first prayer. If I chose to love you with the whole picture in my hands, then one silent season is nowhere near enough to make me change my mind. I know there are decisions you have made without praying. There are relationships, turning points, agreements, and silences in which you knew that if you had asked me, perhaps everything would have been different. And when the consequences came, you felt ashamed. You avoided me not because you did not believe, but because you believed you had ruined too much. You thought, if I come to him, I will have to hear again all the things I failed to do. I cannot bear that. So you chose to stand far away, even though your heart ached from the absence of me. But my child, I do not receive you with a list of mistakes. I receive you with the nails that paid every debt. I do not need you to judge yourself before me. I want you to allow me to be the one who heals. There are moments when you are sitting on a bus, next to a stranger whose eyes are fixed on their screen, and suddenly you feel as if you are nothing more than a shadow passing through the city. You watch buildings shrink behind you, bright signs flickering, and familiar roads repeating themselves day after day. You think, will my life always be like this? A feeling of meaninglessness clings to your throat, and you exhale a heavy sigh. You do not say, "Lord, show me where to go." You simply look out the window, eyes stinging. But I hear the cry hidden in that breath. I hear the question, is there anything more than this? And I whisper into the deepest place within you, yes, I still have things prepared for you. But first, I simply want you to know that you are not invisible to me. I do not need you to immediately return to long, persistent hours of prayer. I do not demand plans, written commitments, or spiritual goals. Those things can be helpful, but they are not the starting point. The starting point is exactly where you stand in the haziness, the weariness, mixed with a thin thread of hope. I want you to know that I see the entire picture, and I do not turn away. You may not know what to say, but you can admit, Lord, I miss you, but I do not know how to come back. That sentence alone is enough for me to step in. I do not wait for a perfect prayer. I only wait for an honest space. My child, you have grown used to thinking that prayer is something you do for me. You give time, give words, give concentration. But before anything else, prayer is something I do for you. I heal. I stitch torn places together. I gather the scattered fragments you drop throughout your day. When you have no words left, you do not lose the right to enter my presence. That is precisely the moment you can learn a deeper kind of prayer, one not spoken by the mouth, but lived by presence. You come, you sit there, without performing, without trying to appear fervent, and you simply allow me to be there with you. That is already prayer. I am inviting you to slowly step out of the land of shame and self-condemnation, not with a leap, but with small steps. Thoughts renewed one by one. I do not say, "Why don't you pray like you used to?" I say, "Thank you for still being here, even when you feel unworthy." I do not ask, "Why are you so late?" I say, "I am glad you still came." I do not force you to explain everything. I only desire to hold you, to let your sigh melt into my heart. And from there, I will begin forming new words for you at the appointed time. I want you to calmly reflect on one truth: every deep relationship has seasons of silence. No one loves another solely through constant conversation. True love knows how to be present even when words run out. I am not only the one who listens to powerful prayers, I am also the one who looks upon the quiet faithfulness buried in exhaustion. When you are weak, you believe I am demanding something from you. Yet the truth is the opposite in the days of your depletion. I come to give, not to demand. You think you come to me to offer something, but in reality, you come to receive life. And still, how many times have you mistaken it, thinking you owe me? So you stay silent to avoid guilt. I do not come to take, I come to give. Remember something very simple when a child leans its head against its mother's chest after a long day. It does not need to speak, or explain, or recount each event. The mother does not ask, "Why didn't you greet me first?" or "Why aren't you clearer?" She only embraces the child, because she sees exhaustion in its eyes. She hears what the child cannot turn into words. I place that model in the human heart not merely to beautify families, but so that you may understand me. I do not need you to articulate your fatigue. I only need you to rest your head on me. But you have grown. You have experienced life. And maturity leads you to try to use logic to present what your heart only wants to weep silently. You forget that I am the safest place to which you can return without language. In the days when you try to do everything right, you accidentally turn me into a test. You compare your current prayer to the seasons of roaring fire in the past. And you tell yourself, I am no longer who I used to be. You see the gap between who you once were and who you are now. And you conclude that I have changed toward you. But here, my voice, I do not measure you by percentages of passion. I measure by the heart. The great blaze that once burned might have been my grace poured out in a favorable season. But the sigh in the lonely night is pure gold, refined in adversity. People celebrate powerful prayers in crowded gatherings, but I remember forever the tear that falls upon your pillow in the darkness no one sees. What you consider weakness is what I count as intimacy. You once thought that to pray correctly, you must feel something. You wait for emotion to arrive, for a stirring, for a spark of warmth in your heart before you dare to speak. But prayer is not born from emotion. Emotion is the water, prayer is the spring. Emotion shifts with the weather of life. But the truth I give is like solid rock. You assume that when your soul cannot feel, prayer loses its effectiveness. But my child, a soldier does not abandon battle because it rains. A blind man does not stop walking because he cannot see the road. So why should the soul stop turning toward me simply because you cannot sense me for a moment? Your emotions are not the compass. I am. Remember the man who dragged his weary steps to me in desperation, Lord. I believe, but help my unbelief. He did not try to hide his weakness or decorate his prayer to sound better. He laid bare his lack, naked and unpolished, and I did not turn away. I answered. I healed, not because he was perfect, but because he was honest. That is the prayer born in exhaustion, a prayer not smooth, not properly formed, not overflowing with faith, yet truthful enough for me to touch. My child, I do not look for those with beautiful prayers. I look for those who pray with their soul. There are moments when you walk down the street, headlights flash by, the voices of strangers echo in your ears, yet your heart feels empty like an abandoned land. You look at faces full of life, people hailing taxis, laughing, shopping while you feel as if you are drifting through a world that does not belong to you. I was beside you in that moment. No one hears the words you speak within yourself. I feel lost. But I hear them, even if they never leave your lips. I know that lostness is not a matter of roads or time. It is the cry of a soul that has wandered far from its source of life. I do not blame a soul for thirsting in the desert. I bring water to it. Do not think I demand perfect preparation. Spiritual maturity is not knowing how to say many words, but knowing where to go. When you cannot speak, I do not love you less. I only see that you need me more. Some children speak endlessly, telling their parents everything, and there are children who simply hold their mother and say nothing. Which of the two loves their mother more? Neither. Both are returning. Both are children. Both are embraced. So why do you believe that silence makes you less valuable? In my eyes, you are learning a lesson that adults often forget. Weakness does not strip you of your place of belonging. When you are weak, you think I will avoid you. Yet it is in that very moment that I draw closest. You have often judged yourself. I am not ready. But I do not wait for you to be ready. I come to make you ready. You have said, I no longer know how to pray. But prayer is not only words. Sometimes prayer is simply breathing. Sometimes prayer is merely opening your eyes in the morning and saying, please be with me. Sometimes prayer is placing your hand over your chest and remembering that your heart beats because of me. I want you to distinguish between dead silence and living silence. Dead silence is when you close the door, reject my help, and believe you are strong enough on your own. Living silence is when you are tired, unable to speak, yet still turn your heart toward me. I see that difference as clearly as you distinguish between tears of sorrow and tears of relief. You think your spiritual life is dying, but in truth, you are simply learning to walk in the night. The sky is not always bright. There are nights when stars are hidden by clouds, but the stars remain. There are seasons when I am quiet, not because I have abandoned you, but because I am teaching you to know me in the depths, not only in the light. My child, the silence of prayer is not failure. It is the place where I prepare your soul for a new level of closeness. You are walking across a land where many have given up because they believed they had lost me. But they did not lose me, they only lost trust. I speak to you today so you will not walk the road they took. Do not measure our fellowship by sound. Measure it by direction. You are still turned toward me. Even if only with a breath. You still hunger for me. Even if only with a sigh. And I tell you, that is enough for me to keep moving toward you. I am leading you to a point where words will no longer be the center, your heart will. Hold on to what I speak, for ahead lies a moment when I will touch the depths of your soul, where every silence will be transformed into glowing embers. Hear my decree in this very moment when you no longer have words to pray. I hear your sigh as the cry of a soul struggling for breath. I do not need your phrases to understand you. I understand even when your lips remain closed. For I, the Lord, examine the heart and test the mind. Those words are not given to threaten you, but to free you from the burden of language. Jeremiah 1:7-10. I see what you dare not speak aloud. I hear the pain you bury, and I hold each of your sighs as the truest prayer. There are times when you kneel, trying to find a sentence to begin with, but tears burst forth before a thought can form. You tremble, your hands clench, and you think you have failed. But in that very moment, I step forward, place my hand upon your shoulder, and say, "My child, I do not love you because of your words. I love you because you belong to me. You cannot see me clearly through your tears, but I see you clearly through every drop. You do not see me in the darkness, but I stand there, closer than your own breath. I do not wait at the end of your road. I walk in every weary step you take. My beloved child, when you sob without words, heaven is not silent. Others may not understand the trembling in your chest, but my Spirit understands. The Spirit helps us in our weakness. He himself intercedes for us with groanings too deep for words. Romans 8:2-6. You think silence is emptiness, but to me, it is the language of the soul. You think you have lost me because you have no words, but I am nearest when you cannot speak. My child, I have heard your sigh in the misty morning when you did not have the strength to open your Bible. I have heard your sigh in the bathroom when you buried your face in your hands and the world felt heavy on your shoulders. I have heard your sigh when you lay in bed staring at the ceiling, telling yourself, "I don't know how to pray anymore." And it was in those sighs that I answered, "I am here." You did not feel it, but I covered your soul with peace. You did not hear me speak, but I was untying every knot in your mind. You did not see me at work, but I was gathering every shattered piece of you to build something new. I do not wait for you to rise strong. I bend down to where you collapse. I do not require you to speak loudly. I lower my ear to hear your faintest whisper. I do not wait for you to find the words. I am the words for you. I do not wait for you to step out of the storm. I step into the storm beside you. I do not wait for you to sing in victory. I embrace you in defeat. I do not wait for you to lift the sword. I stand beside you when all you can do is tremble. My child, look at me. You are not invisible. You are not forgotten. You do not lose worth because you are silent. It is in the place where words run out that I begin rebuilding your soul. It is in the place where all you can do is sigh that I hear a cry louder than 1,000 hymns. And today I declare to you, one sigh in my presence is stronger than 1,000 prayers spoken in pride. I know that when the storm has passed, your heart still trembles, not because the wind still blows, but because the memory of the storm remains inside your chest. You fear that if you open your mouth to pray, you will fail again. You fear that if you try, you will run out of breath again. But I do not come to pressure you. I come to lay my hand on your shoulder and reassure you. You do not need to know what to say. You only need to know that I am here. I do not expect you to find impressive words. I do not require you to craft a long prayer. I ask only one gentle thing. Let me stay beside you for a while. You remember the time you walked through the park, watching people play soccer, some exercising, some families having snacks on the grass. The breeze was light, leaves drifting down around you. You did not think you were praying. You simply sat on a stone bench, looked up at the sky, and asked in your heart, "God, do you know how tired I am?" That question was so simple that you thought it could not be considered a prayer. But I heard it more clearly than any memorized litany. I heard the truth inside your heart, the hesitation of a soul that wants to return, but fears it might not be enough. I answered you with peace that seeped into your heart, not through thunder or visions, but through a gentleness so subtle you thought you imagined it. But my child, True peace is never created by you. It comes from me. You have grown accustomed to seeing prayer as an action, but I want you to learn to see prayer as presence. You imagine you must do something to unlock the gates of heaven. But heaven has never been closed to you. I do not only hear the words you speak to me, I hear the silence beside me. There are times when you simply come, open your laptop to work, or wash dishes, or hang up clothes, and your heart quietly whispers, "Keep me." No one else hears that, but I hear it. I turn those words into a rope, pulling you back from the depths of exhaustion, not so that you become supernatural, but so that you do not drown. Some believe prayer is about seeking answers, but for souls that have grown weary, prayer is first about seeking shelter. You do not need to know the future. You do not need a strategy. You only need to sit beside me. I will not teach you how to go on through theories. I will teach you through my presence woven into your life each day. I do not place a new burden on you. I place upon you a shoulder to lean on. My child, I understand your quiet shame. You look back at those seasons of spiritual fire and ask, "Why am I not like that anymore?" But you only see the surface of your journey. I see the depth. I see that the season you are in is not a season of intense emotions, but a season of roots. You once prayed like a flame rising in the wind, beautiful, but easily extinguished. But now I am leading you into prayers like embers, slow, steady, perhaps not dazzling, but enough to warm your soul through the night. Those silent prayers are not weakness, they are maturity. Do not think I delight only in fervent prayers. Parents are not only joyful when their children leap and laugh, they are also joyful when their children fall asleep in their arms, heavy with exhaustion. I am the same. There are nights I see you fall asleep before finishing your prayer. You apologize to me, imagining you have been disrespectful. But my child, I have looked at you the way a father looks at a child sleeping in his arms, peaceful, trusting, unguarded. That is not failure. That is surrender. You fear opening your mouth to pray because you think you must get back to form, but I do not want you to return to the old. I am leading you into something new, a closeness not built on intensity, but on truth. You do not need to prove anything to me. I already know everything. You do not need to lift your head high when you come to me. I do not require that. I only ask that you do not turn away. You may tremble and still draw near. You may be silent and still remain in my embrace. You may sigh and still be praying. I see every breath of yours as a heartbeat. When you lower your head on the bus, when you stand in a supermarket choosing groceries, when you sit before your computer looking at your schedule, I am there, not to control you, but to walk with you. You think I only work when you kneel, but I work even when you cannot muster the strength to kneel. I place an invisible hand upon your shoulder and speak, "Keep walking." I walk with you. Many times you think you are living by your own strength, but in reality, you live because I am upholding the smallest parts of your mind. There is a peace I want you to recognize, not the peace of crowded church gatherings, but the peace of a quiet morning when you sit and drink water, sunlight spilling through the window, and your heart softens just a little. No one knows. No one applauds. But I know. That moment is the place where I touch you to remind you I am not only the God of grand moments, I am the God of every ordinary breath. My child, I know there are old wounds that make you afraid to come close to me. You once prayed with sincerity, but the answers seemed slower than you hoped. You once held expectations, then disappointment, then fatigue. So now you keep your distance. You think that distance keeps you safe from being hurt again. But hear me, it is distance that wounds you. I never injure you for pleasure. I only shape you so you do not perish in the desert. I am not slow to discourage you. I am slow so you may grow. I do not stay silent to abandon you. I am silent to give you the space I know you will return to. You do not need a grand program of transformation. You only need one small step, even if that step is simply calling my name in your heart once a day. I do not despise small steps. I see the direction. I do not count the number of steps. I see that you are returning, my beloved child. Let me say this clearly. I am not disappointed in you. I do not see you as an unfinished test. I see you as one learning to breathe again in my presence. I do not love you less because you are silent. I am healing you through that silence. You are not alone. I have never left. I do not demand that you understand all your emotions. You have tried many times to explain why you are tired, why you no longer have motivation, why the things that once made you joyful now feel like burdens. But you do not know that there are regions of the soul that do not belong to reason. There are wounds that never speak with words and only show themselves through emptiness. I do not wait for you to name your pain correctly. I place my hand upon it myself. You only need to sit down. Breathe in, breathe out, and allow me to stay with you. Remember an ordinary day you did not pay attention to. You woke up, washed your face, had breakfast in a hurry. While washing dishes, you suddenly paused for a few seconds because your heart felt heavy. You did not know why. I knew. You thought you were simply tired today. But I knew it was a heart stretched too long. You saw your hands tremble slightly for a moment, then return to normal. You thought it was just your body reacting. But it was the voice of your soul saying, I need to stop for a moment. I stood beside the sink, not speaking loudly, simply looking at you with gentle eyes. Stay with me. There are moments when you are slicing fruit, the blade gliding through an orange, its juice soaking your fingers, a light fragrance rising. You pause for a moment and instinctively lift your eyes toward the window. The sun lays a thin layer of light across the kitchen counter. No one praises that moment. No one calls it spiritual. But I see it. I pull the breeze through the leaves and bring the soft song of birds into your home to remind you that I am still here. Those small signs are not random. They are my whisper woven into your everyday life. I am with you even when you do not believe you deserve it. You think I am only present in church, in solemn gatherings, but I have stood beside you in a messy room, on the motorbike carrying you across dust-filled streets, in the cafe where you sit alone. I do not require a beautiful setting to come to you. I come to you where you live. Many times you sigh in the elevator, finger pressing the button, the lights flickering, your ears full of noise, your mind full of thoughts. You say nothing. Yet I hear that sigh as a short prayer. Please let me endure a little longer. And I respond, not through miracles, but by keeping you from collapsing. I speak to you, do not dismiss the nameless moments of life. I accomplish many great things precisely within those unnoticed details. When you hang clothes to dry, I teach you perseverance. When you wash a cup, I teach you stillness. When you pick a fallen leaf from the floor, I teach you the cycle of every season. Not every word I speak comes from an open heaven. Many of my words come through the ordinary miracles you label as dull. I am using every small thing in your daily life to draw you back to a gentle rhythm beside me. I am never in a hurry with you. I know you need time to heal. Like a sower who will not pull a plant upward to make it grow faster. I will not drag your soul from its weakness. I simply water it each day with my presence. You want results immediately, but things built to last never grow overnight. I am placing deep roots within you, roots you cannot see. When you face criticism, failure, or a closed door, you think I am silent, but it is at that moment I am strengthening those roots, so you will not be torn from the soil. My child, I do not measure your love by the words you speak to me. I measure it by the fact that you return. Even if in the smallest way, I measure it by the way you still open your eyes in the morning and try to live one more day. I measure it by the way you refuse to sever hope. Those actions, invisible to others, are the loudest cries of the soul. I have been working within them far longer than you know. You do not need to be good at prayer. You only need to let me love you in this season of silence. No one has asked you to rise and transform in a single day. I do not wait for eloquent words. I do not command you to return to long prayers. I simply invite you to draw near to me through a small act, breathe out, and remember that I am listening. Do not try to produce something grand. Simply take a moment to say in your heart, Lord, please be here with me. And you will feel the fragile thread between you and me tighten, not because you have done something great, but because you dared to open the door even a little. When you wake up in the morning, do not begin with the pressure to pray correctly. Simply place your hand on your chest and recognize that your heart beats because I am keeping you. When you go to sleep at night, do not accuse yourself of what you have not said. Simply let out a gentle sigh and entrust the day into my hands. You do not need to win every battle to be loved by me. You only need to return breath by breath, thought by thought, moment by moment. Love does not begin with great strides. It begins when you turn your face toward me. If you want to pray but your mouth is dry, let your heart pray for you. You may only manage to say, Lord, and then fall silent. I understand the rest. I know what you cannot articulate. I know what you fear to face. I know the dreams you hide. I know the scars you no longer wish to touch. You only need to place them in my hands. I will not crush them. I will cradle them gently. Like a craftsman restoring ancient pottery, no haste, no force, no harm. My child, choose one simple thing to begin with. 1 minute in the day to listen for me. One whisper in your heart while you work. One small pause before you respond to someone. One slow breath when you feel your heart racing. Do not know what to say. Say, Lord, lead me. Do not know what to ask for. Say, keep my soul. Do not know where to set your expectations. Say, do not let me stray from you. I do not despise those short sentences. I see them as delicate threads that weave your spirit back together from within. Do not wait until you feel strong enough. Do not wait until every worry is gone. Do not wait until emotion returns. I do not come to you in perfect conditions. I come to you in the present ones. You do not need to change before coming to me. You come to me to be changed. You do not need to shine for me to see you. I have seen you in the dark. You do not need to shout for me to hear. I have heard your smallest sigh. My beloved child, return little by little. Do not force yourself. Do not torture your soul. Not every sound is my voice, but every gentle comfort that arises in your heart comes from my presence. I do not run ahead of you, demanding you catch me. I walk beside you step by step, day by day, breath by breath. You only need to open your heart. I have already opened mine. Remember this, and carve it into your soul when you have no prayer left. I hear your sigh, so do not be silent to avoid me. Be silent to be with me. I do not demand speech. I welcome your return. I do not wait for explanations. I wait for your gaze to lift. You do not need to know how. You only need to do one thing: come close to me. I will do the rest. My child, begin with the smallest things. You do not need to open a hymn book. You do not need to prepare proper prayers. Simply take 1 moment in the day to quietly call me in your heart, Lord. You need say nothing after that. I will understand. I do not wait for the next paragraph. I do not wait for justification. I receive that word as a father receives the call of his child in the midst of a rainy night. You may be standing in an elevator, sitting behind the wheel, about to shower, or preparing to sleep. The moment itself does not matter. What matters is the direction of your heart. A quiet call is enough to move heaven. A single breath turned toward me is enough to change an entire day. You do not need to create a spiritual atmosphere. You only need to offer your truth. If you feel you cannot say anything at all, practice being with me the way you would be with a very close friend. Go on with your tasks, fold your clothes, cook your meals, wipe the table, but leave a small opening in your thoughts so I may enter. Do not strain yourself in an attempt to consecrate. You have nothing to prove to me. Just let me be with you. A small, steady companionship is often stronger than a momentary blaze. My child, prayer is not a ritual. Prayer is the cord that connects your soul to me. Whether you speak or not, that cord is never severed. I simply invite you to gently draw it closer. You do not need strength, only intention. That intention is like a person placing their hand on the door and lightly turning the handle. I will push the rest of the way. If you desire something specific, ask me. Help me remember you every day, not so that you might become religious, but so that you may return to your true self, the child I created, not the product of life's pressures. When you forget, I will remind you. When you wander, I will seek you. When you are weary, I will carry you. You only need to keep coming, even in the smallest steps. Do not be afraid when you are silent before me. I have heard the screams of the world, but I also love the quietness of your heart. I do not require grand expressions. I require honesty. When you open your heart, even just a thin sliver, I will step inside and remain. I do not seek a perfect place, I seek an open one. And when you come to me, whether with words, with tears, or only with breath, I will say, I have been here long before you began to seek me. May the word of the Lord continually remind you to live in His faith and His love each day. Click follow and turn on notifications so you will not miss the sacred and meaningful messages that God desires to share. May God bless you. Amen.